The knock came like a wound to the morning, a desperate rhythm against iron doors that had heard every kind of threat but had never heard fear this naked. The sun was only beginning to lift itself over the low buildings, pale and unsure, when a single father stood shaking on the threshold of a place everyone warned you to avoid. He held his little boy tight, not to protect himself, but to offer him up to strangers he had been taught to fear. In that moment, pride burned away, and only love remained. If you believe in second chances and in the quiet goodness that can rise from unexpected places, please take a second right now to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Kindora Life. Your support helps stories like this reach the hearts that need them most. The man's name was Rowan Hale, a construction worker with hands hardened by years of lifting what others dropped. He had been a single father since grief split his world open 3 years earlier, when illness took the woman who had taught him how to be gentle. Since then, Rowan had measured time in lunches packed, scraped knees cleaned, and nightlights left glowing because his son, Micah, was afraid of the dark. He had tried to be enough. He had tried to keep the world from reaching into their small apartment with its sharp edges. But some storms do not care how hard you try. The trouble had begun quietly, the way it always does, with layoffs and late notices sliding under the door. The job site closed. The savings vanished. Rowan took night shifts and side work, but the debt kept growing, and with it came men who did not knock like neighbors. They leaned in hallways and waited near the bus stop. They spoke of money with smiles that never reached their eyes. Rowan learned what it meant to be watched. He learned how fear could become a routine. Micah was 6, with hair the color of sunlit wheat and eyes that seemed to ask questions even when he was asleep. He sensed the change before Rowan did. He grew quiet. He listened at doors. He clung harder in public places. Rowan told himself it would pass. He told himself children bounce back. He was wrong. The day that finally broke him came bright and ordinary. It was late morning, the kind of day that tricks you into believing everything is fine. Rowan walked Micah to school with a knot in his chest he could not explain. When he turned the corner, a car idled longer than it should have. When he looked back, Micah stood in the doorway of the school, waving with a brave smile that made Rowan's chest ache. By noon, Rowan knew he was out of time. He did not go home. He walked. He walked until his legs shook and the city blurred into warehouses and old murals. He walked with Micah's backpack slung over one shoulder, the weight of it heavier than concrete. He walked toward the one place he had sworn never to go, a clubhouse people spoke of in lowered voices, a place wrapped in legend and fear. He walked because he had run out of doors that would open for him. By the time Rowan reached the building, the sun had climbed high, painting the lot with sharp light and long shadows. The sign was weathered, the walls marked by years of wind and road dust. Motorcycles rested like sleeping animals, chrome catching the day. Rowan stood at the edge of the lot and felt the last of his courage leak away. He thought of Micah's lunchbox with the cartoon sticker peeling at the corner. He thought of bedtime stories. He thought of how a father is supposed to protect, not beg. When he knocked, it was not loud. It did not need to be. The door opened, and the air seemed to change. Faces turned. The room held men with lines carved by Sun and Miles, men whose vests carried symbols that made headlines. And nightmares. Rowan did not see monsters. He saw people who had lived hard and learned to survive. His knees threatened to fold. He did not speak. He could not. He set Micah's backpack on the floor and pressed his forehead to the doorframe for a second, breathing in the smell of oil and coffee. He lifted his head and let the truth spill out without words, the way grief does when it has waited too long. He let them see his fear. He let them see his love. What happened next was not fast. It was not dramatic in the way stories pretend. It was human. A man with gray in his beard stepped forward. His name was Calder Boone, a road captain known for rules and fairness, and he had buried a daughter years before. He saw the way Rowan's hands shook. He saw the way Micah's name was written on the backpack in careful marker. He saw something he recognized. The room shifted. Chairs scraped. Coffee was poured. The door closed not as a threat but as a shield. Rowan sat. His heart hammered. He told them everything without dressing it up. He spoke of dead-end threats, of a boy who had begun to flinch at footsteps. He did not ask for money. He did not ask for protection for himself. He asked one thing and it broke him to ask it. He asked if they could hide his son until the storm passed. Outside, the day went on as if nothing important had happened. Inside, a line was drawn that had nothing to do with territory. Calder listened. Others listened. Some remembered being children with fathers who never came home. Some remembered being the ones who had been hunted. No one laughed. No one mocked. The decision was made the way the best decisions are, quietly and together. Micah spent that afternoon in a place that surprised him. He was given a sandwich cut carefully in half. He was shown a shelf of model bikes built with patience. He sat at a table by a window where the light fell warm and safe. He was not told to be brave. He was allowed to be small. Men who had broken bones and hearts took turns keeping an eye on him, pretending to argue over which model bike was fastest. Outside, engines roared and then faded as riders came and went, keeping watch without saying the word. Rowan stayed too, his body slowly remembering how to breathe. He slept in a chair for an hour and woke with a start, certain he had made a terrible mistake. Calder was still there, reading a paper, the day folding into afternoon. He told Rowan without speeches that some lines do not get crossed. He told him that children were one of them. He told him that storms can be waited out if you have walls and people who will stand. The days that followed were bright and tense. Rowan did not hide forever. He did what he had avoided doing because fear makes cowards of us all. With help and advice, he faced the people he owed, not with violence but with paperwork and plans. He took a job offered by a man who knew a man, a job that paid fair and asked for sweat. The pressure did not vanish, but it shifted. The watchers stopped waiting. The car stopped idling. Micah stayed where he was for a week that felt like a lifetime and a breath at the same time. He learned names and rules. He learned that kindness can wear leather and that laughter can live in places you are told are dark. He drew pictures in crayon, motorcycles with wings, a house with a big sun over it. Rowan watched his son sleep without waking every hour, and something inside him began to heal. On the 7th day, the sky was a blue that felt earned. Rowan packed Micah's backpack again, this time with clean clothes and a new notebook. He hugged Calder with the awkwardness of men who do not practice gratitude out loud. He left with his son's hand in his, walking back into a city that looked the same but felt changed. The building receded behind them, just another place in a world full of places, except it would never be just that to them. Life did not turn into a fairy tale. Rowan worked hard. He paid down what he owed. He moved to a smaller place with better light. Micah returned to school with a steadier smile. Sometimes, when a motorcycle passed, Micah would look up and wave without knowing why. Sometimes Rowan would think of that morning, of the way fear had led him to mercy, and his eyes would sting. Years later, on a warm day that smelled like cut grass and oil, Rowan took Micah to a charity ride that filled the streets with sound and color. They stood at the curb, the sun high, the day generous. Calder rode past and nodded, a small gesture that carried 1,000 words. Micah waved with both hands. Rowan felt the old knot loosen, finally. If this story has reached into your chest and stirred something there, please take a moment near the end to like the video, share it with someone who believes the world can be better than it looks, and subscribe to Kindor Life so more stories of hope can find their way home. And before this story closes, we have one special request for you. Please comment below and tell us what second chances mean to you, or who you would protect if everything was on the line.